sample t-test, independent sample t-test, pair sample t-test, one bay nova, two bay nova, manova, encoba, two bay encoba, mancoba. So there are different basics tools and techniques are there that you can use to just describe the nature of the data set. So most of the time what I have seen that people just run t-test and try to again examine the hypothesis. Definitely t-test is nothing that it's just differentiating the mean between mean sample mean 1 with sample mean 2. So it's just sample difference test. It's not a test to examine the hypothesis. It's not the test to examine the impact of some variable x to variable y. But I always used to tell that whenever you are using any technique, it should come from the basics. So if I am knowing all the technique, I am not supposed to you supposed to use all the techniques in my research paper on my dissertation. So one thing that is very much important whenever you are using any tools and technique, that should not be that exaggeration of anything is bad. So sometimes because of that I am knowing the tool, I will use all the tool and I will report all the results what I am getting. So it will it has bad impact on the mind of reviewer or examiner who is examining the thesis or who are reviewing your paper. So always whenever you are using the tools and techniques, be careful. And it should always be the, and yesterday we have discussed that always whenever using any tool, that should be problem driven. So what is my objective to fulfill? For example, I want to, my objective is to examine the impact of variable x on variable y. So in that case I will use simple regression. Again I have told you that there are different conditions, data nature. So when we have data nature like that, we have independent variable, dependent variable, independent variable non-continuous, dependent variable continuous, then you can go for t-test ANOVA. When you have both the variable non-continuous, you can go for chi-square. When you have one variable, independent variable is continuous and dependent variable is continuous, you can go for regression, structure equation modeling, or multiple regression. When you have independent variable continuous but dependent variable is non-continuous or binary, then you will go for, when you have binary output variable, you will go for logistic regression. And if you have that ordinal output variable, then you go for discriminant analysis. So there are some tools and techniques that they are meant to use for a particular situation in a particular condition. So you have to understand that in particular situation which tool is required, and then only you have to use the tool. And second important thing in the quantitative method is that how to report the result. So today we will discuss these things. So first I will share my screen and then I will start presenting the session. So what we will do today, we will I think, is it visible? My screen is visible, PPT?
Yes, sir, visible, sir.
Yeah, so what we will do today, it's better to let you understand everything with the practical example rather than I kind of speak on theory for the 10 hours or 20 hours, but it will not get over. So when we talk about analysis, there are different tools and techniques are there, and I can speak for each and every technique for at least 1 hour and 1.5 hours. So that will take another 2 or 3 days to complete this session. So what I will do, I will take the example of I have told you that in quantitative analysis, we have 3 basic type of paper. One, survey-based paper. Second, skill development or mixed method paper. And third, we are saying experimental paper. So I will tell you in survey-based paper, how you can use the analysis and in a particular situation, how you can use particular tool and how you can report the result. That is very much important, because most of the time people fail to report the result. So what I should write, what I have to put at the table as a figure, that people are not knowing. So we will discuss that how you in survey based paper, what people are looking for. And in survey based paper, we have different situation. So in that situation, I will tell you how you can use a particular tool and technique and how you can, what you can say, report the result. When we talk about survey based paper, a paper in which we are taking one paper and in one condition, survey based, maybe it's cross sectional or longitudinal. We will discuss later that there are 2 types of study when we talk about survey based study, either it's cross sectional or longitudinal. So what people are doing, sometimes collecting data once, sometimes they are collecting data twice and thrice and doing the analysis. So when you are collecting data once and doing the analysis, that's called cross-sectional study. When you are collecting data with same sample twice and thrice and doing the study, or you are collecting data for different country, that we call longitudinal study. So we will go into that detail in the subsequent slide. Here I will discuss with you that when you are writing a what you can say survey based paper, what you should keep in mind. Whenever you are writing a survey based paper, first and foremost thing, I always say that whatever tool you will use, that should be come from your objective and nature of the data, rather than just a statistic. A statistic should not drive your result, rather than your logic should drive the statistics, which type of a statistics will you. Then you will write the survey paper. So in survey paper, what we are doing, we are collecting the response. Whenever you are collecting any response, first table you have to write. Either you can write in the table, or either you can write in the paragraph. First you have to write in, I am talking about result section only, because we have already discussed what is the literature and hypothesis and model specification. We have already discussed that. Now after model specification and research methodology, I have to write result. So I will tell you that which type of analysis you can use, and how to report the result in survey based paper, how to report result in the what you can say mixed method paper, and how to report the result in experimental paper. That we will discuss today. Whenever you are writing any of the survey based paper, first table, the table number 1, if you want to give the table is perfectly fine. If you don't want to use the table, you can write in paragraph also, related to demographic profile of your sample. First you have to come up with one table which is showing what is the demographic profile of the consumer. So table 1, which is nothing but demographic profile of the consumer, in which what you have to say that this is my characteristics, demographic characteristics, and then n means number, and then percentage. There will be 3 columns in that. So demographic, for example, first demographic I am taking gender. And gender, we have 2 genders. Sometimes we are taking 3 also, male, female, and other. Here I am taking 2 only. So male and female. So n, I think we have 500 sample. I am taking 500 sample, 300 male, 200 female. Percentage will be 60%, 40%, like this. Then income class. So income, you can specify the income. Choice is yours. You can take monthly, you can take annually. But I would suggest here, when you are specifying the income, put into the dollar form. So although you are taking in the Indian rupee, convert into dollar. So 0 to 200 USD. And you have to write here annually or monthly, whatever it is. Then 200 to 400, 400 to 600, 600 to 800, and 800 above. Above 800 you can write. One thing you have to, whenever you are coming with ordinal scale, be careful that you have to take it in interval should be equal. So 0 to 200, 200 to 400, 400 to 600, 600 to 800, 800 above. You can take any interval, that is your choice, and the basis of the diversity of the data. And again you have to give the number 100, 100, 100, 50, 150, like that. And you have to give the percentage. Same, most of the thing what you have to write in the demographic table, that is must, that is called gender, income, education. And again in education you have to write 0 to 10th or below 10th or below secondary, higher secondary. So you have to write maximum degree. Secondary, below secondary, below secondary, secondary, higher secondary, graduation, post graduation, above post graduation. So you can write like that. So you have to write education qualification, that you should write. You can write gender, income group, education qualification. You can write profession sometime if you want. So some is the and the best way to write the profession is unemployed, then private sector, government sector, homemaker, and then you can write businessman. So these, whatever profession you have collected data, you have to write the profession wise that also. So these 4 you can use. Other than that, any demographic variable you want to collect, you can report it here. One method you can create a table. Other method, I don't want to come as a table. I don't want to report result as a table. So you can write in my sample. So or my sample consists 60% male. So 60% male means 40% will be female. Accordingly, 30% sample belong to this category, income group 0 to 20. So you can write in the table for that paragraph column. So choice is yours. Either you can put a table or you can put a what you can say paragraph form. Both choice you have. Either you can come up with this, and I think most of people are knowing this fact that either you can use this as a paper, or either you can what you can say. Either you can use this as a table form, either you can write it in a paragraph form. That is the first thing that you have to do. First thing, you have to explain the demographics of whatever you are collecting the data. So first table which is required is called, and nothing, there is nothing to do anything about it. This, that's only. Here what you can do, after collecting the data here at the demographic place, you can do what? You can run t-test here to check the difference between, is there any difference between the response of male and female? Is there any difference between the response of 5 income group? Is there any difference? So if you have to examine the difference between 5 group, so I want to know that is there any difference in the response of 5 income group, which test we will do? Anyone? So if I want to know, is there any difference in the purchase intention of these 5 income group, which test we will do?
ANOVA?
ANOVA, we will do ANOVA definitely, because we have more than 2 groups. But we have, if you want to know, is there any difference between the response of the male and female, we can go do the t-test. You can do ANOVA also. So accordingly, you have to run some basic statistics here to just know that is there any difference between that demographic variable or not. If you will use as a moderating variable some of the demographic, that is something different. Then you are not supposed to write it here. We will write at the end when we will run the moderation analysis. So here, if you are not using as a moderator or mediator, and one suggestion I want to give you, nowadays journals are not very much welcoming the moderating effect of demographic variable. The days has been gone that people used to, because that is the most easiest way to run the moderation analysis. So people, what they are doing, they collect the data, one analysis, they are always doing that moderating impact of demographic. Till the time it's not very necessary, and you don't have particular statement or logical statement that gender play very important role, don't check the moderating impact of demographic variable, rather than check the control effect of this demographic variable rather than moderating effect. Because now journals or in thesis, people want to see what is the moderating effect of continuous variable rather than this demographic variable. So they are looking for some other continuous variable or unobserved variable or latent variable, how this is moderating the relationship. So it's very easy for us. Most of the time we are collecting data for demographic variable. End of the, what we will do? We will run the moderation analysis. So that journals are not welcoming much this type of activity or this type of practices. So most of the time avoid this if it is not necessary. If it is necessary, definitely you should go for it. If you are thinking that income group play important role and I should check this, then you can go for it. But journals are not welcoming it more nowadays. That is the new development I can see throughout my journey. First, you have to explain the demographic. Second, you have to examine the measurement model. Now here, before measurement model, there are 2 things we have. We can, after that, we have to run EFA and CFA. We have 2 options. So either we have to go for EFA or CFA, or only EFA, or both EFA and CFA. So EFA, I have told you yesterday also, when your item is new, means you have developed the item, or you are doing a scale development for measuring something very new, then only you are supposed to run the EFA, or you have added certain extending something. So you are extension, for example, I have taken the items for 5 items for construct A, but 3 items I have added to fill to make it more convergent and more suitable to the context. I am adding 3 items. Then in that case, you are supposed to run EFA, otherwise not, because I can tell you most of the time EFA is not the right method to group it, because numbers, what we are doing in EFA, we have coming with some certain item, we just ungroup it first. So we are ungrouping it first. We have 100 item or 80 items. We collect the data. On the basis of data, whatever data we are collecting, 100, 200, we group this all the items into the variables that we are doing. So on the basis of sample data we are collecting, on the nature of the responses, whatever response. So most of the time there may be measurement error bias, there may be sample selection bias, there may be common method bias, there will be many biases will come. Because of that, some of the time you can see that variable, this is my variable 1, we have 4 item 1, so item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, and this is saying that you have these 4 items grouping under 1. This is saying that service should be tangible. This is saying I want to see the people should be in, parking facility should be there. That is the second item. Third is saying building should be good. Fourth is saying price should be less. Now you will be in the dilemma. How it's good? These 3 items, we can easily say that these 3 items is related to tangibility, but this 4 item is coming, price should be less. And most of the time it's happening with EFA. You believe or not, most of the time it's happening that some of the random variable which is not related to particular group, it's coming in some of the group that is not desirable. So what we are doing, then again we are in problem, either we are collecting the data again, or we are doing several sort of thing. But if you are running EFA and you are facing this problem, based on logic, just delete that variable item. Based on your logic, if you have concrete logic and you're thinking this variable, one item is coming unrelated, just remove this. Because EFA result, after EFA result, you have to give the name to the variable with the what is, because this is not specified by the EFA. You have to give the name of this variable, whatever you identify. So in that case, you have that luxury that use your logic, use your heuristic, use your previous literature, and just remove those variable which is coming in this if it is not related. There are again certain decision which is coming in, the cross loading, what is the loading percentage. Some people are taking 30%, 0.3, some people are taking 0.5, some people are taking 0.7, some people are not checking cross loading. So there are different methodology in the EFA which is evolving. That's why I'm suggesting you that if EFA is the most complex method I have ever with when we are collecting the when we are doing some analysis with data, because EFA will give you some new variable. If after EFA, actually in scale development, most of the time we are using it, so it's giving some new variable which is measuring some of the construct. So I will suggest you don't go for EFA if you have collected data from literature, because you have already specifying the group. Objective of EFA is to just group the items. That's it. Means these 4 items grouped together, and you have to give one name to that item. That is the objective of EFA. That's it. Nothing else. So my suggestion is that if you have no new construct, definitely you are doing a scale development, or you are developing doing some mixed method analysis, you should go for it, or you are extending some of the theories, you should go for it. But other than that, if you have taken the measurement, what you can say, items from this scale, then you are directing come to measurement model, and you have to run CFA, and measurement model is nothing but reliability and validity of the scale. Scale means whatever, whenever I am saying a scale means construct, whatever construct you are taking. Be aware here, if your all variable are observed when you are saying that you have a direct question, what is your salary? So you have only one question for each and every variable. In that case, you are not supposed to run the CFA. CFA we are running for the variable which is unobserved or latent. You got this point? So most of the time, I have asked only one question for satisfaction. You are not supposed to run CFA for that, because that is observed variable rather than unobserved variable. So CFA, reliability and validity, we are checking of the latent construct rather than observed construct, or unobserved construct rather than observed construct. So be careful. In your study, I'm doing some financial study. I have taken the data, company name, company size, or company performance, and then a stock market price, book value. These all are observed value. End of the day, what we are doing? We are running CFA. No point running CFA in that case, because that is not unobserved variable. So always run CFA when you have unobserved variable. Like satisfaction, for satisfaction you have asked 3 questions. For loyalty you have asked 5 questions. For intangibility you asked 3 questions. For readiness, technology readiness, you can have 5 questions. So you want to check that whatever question I have asked, that is right or not, to measure that variable. In that case only you have to run CFA, which is called confirmatory factor analysis. Before confirmatory factor analysis, you have to do first thing is called reliability analysis. So how will establish the reliability? There are different methods for it. There are 2 types of reliability people are talking about. I will not go into the deep, internal reliability and external reliability. I will explain in detail some of the reliability. First reliability methods that each one most of the people are using is called internal consistency. And that we call Cronbach alpha value. So we use to calculate Cronbach alpha value, which is nothing but internal consistency or interconsistency, people are saying. So to know the consistency, I will tell you that how Cronbach alpha works and what Cronbach alpha means. So first method to calculate the reliability, that you have to calculate Cronbach alpha. Second method to calculate the reliability is called half split. Half split means you are dividing your data into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2, and you are checking the correlation between these 2 data set. And if correlation is greater than 0.8, then you are saying that my data set are consistent. So what I am doing, I have collected the sample with 500 people. I will divide those 500 people into 250 randomly, and after that I will check that is there inconsistency among the response or not. So if correlation is coming higher, means there are consistency among the response, then I will go for that, and then we can show that this is reliable. Third is called intercoder reliability. So most of the time what we are doing, most of the time manually we are dividing the group. So most of the time before EFA, some of the people knowing the grounded theory, in what we are doing, manually we are dividing into 2 groups. So one coder will divide these all items into 5 groups. This coder will divide into the 5 group. So the 2 coders or 3 coders are dividing and doing the analysis. To know the consistency among coder, we have one statistics called Kappa statistics. Kappa statistics we are using to know the intercoder reliability. That is third reliability we are using. And fourth reliability we are using is called test-retest reliability. That is again external reliability, in which what we are doing, I have collected the response first time. After 6 months, I will collect
the intercoder reliability.
Intercoder reliability means what happened. For example, I think you are knowing grounded theory, or in grounded theory what we are doing, we got 5 items. For example, we got 5 items after interview: item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5. I will assign to these two coders, coder 1 and coder 2, and I will ask them that you have to send into the particular group. So what they will say, we have, for example, we have 2 variable, variable 1, variable 2. So we have one coder this, and we have one coder this, I1, I2, I3, I4, I5. And they have also, I will ask them also to divide into 2 groups. So I will ask the coder, one coder, that you have 5 items, divide into 2 groups, and coder 2 divide these 5 items into 2 groups. So what they will do, they will say that I2 belong to B1, so 1, 0. I2 belong, sorry, this is I1. I2 belong to V2, so 1, 0. I3 belong to I2, then 0. Then I4 belong to this 0, and this belong to 1, this 0. So they have, on the basis of their understanding, their logic or their experience, they are dividing this item into different groups. And accordingly, coder 2 will do the same thing. Coder 2 will divide 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0. Now I will see the consistency. Here it's 100% consistency now. It is consistent. This is consistent. This is consistent. This is not consistent. This is consistent. Out of 5, 4 times we got consistency. So out of 4, we means 80% we have Cohen-Kappa statistics. In Cohen-Kappa, we used to create the similarity matrix. How many times coder 1 place 1 into 1, coder 2 place 1 into 1. That's right. Coder place 1, other place 2. Coder place 2. So we have to check the similarity. How many right coding has been done? How many differential coding has been done? And total accuracy of this coding will be nothing but total accurate classification divided by total number of classification. So here 5 classification we have, that this, and then out of 5 we can see that 4 classification are perfectly fine. Then we can say that 80% Cohen-Kappa statistics is 80%. There is formula for this Cohen-Kappa. Manually also you can calculate Cohen-Kappa statistics to check the reliability of the coder. 2 coders when we been 2 intercoder reliability you can check. That is the intercoder reliability. I hope I can make some sense here. You got it? Cohen-Kappa statistics. I think who have asked the question left. There is some network issue also that I can understand. So this is all about Cohen-Kappa statistics, and then called retest reliability. In end of the day, to check the external validity, first you have collected data from one point, and then after 6 months you will collect again, go to the same sample and collect the response with same sample and establish that there correlation between the response with the respect of time or with respect of particular technology change or not. So that's we call test reliability. But most of the time we are using internal consistency or interconsistency, that will call Cronbach alpha. So I will discuss here Cronbach alpha in detail, how Cronbach alpha is calculating and what does Cronbach alpha means. So first you have to calculate Cronbach alpha. That is very easy. Go to SPSS and go to scale reliability, click on the scale reliability, put all the variables of the particular construct and check that if variable deleted, what will be the statistics. Run then statistics, you will get that Cronbach alpha value. That's the very easy method.
Sir, I got a query, sir.
What?
Excuse me, sir.
What?
I got a query, sir. You said in measurement model, sir, you said about EFA, CFA, sir. Sir, during dissertation, whether we have to go for pooled CFA or individual CFA?
That is again a question mark. I will tell you that there are some mistakes people are doing. People are doing individual CFA. Why? I don't know. When you are running CFA in a structure equation modeling, when you are running CFA in a structure equation modeling, can you see that there is covariance between 2 variables? So that is the objective of CFA. We have to covariant each and every. If you are doing PLS, you can do individual CFA. So you can check one by one. But if you are using covariance based SCM or MOS, my suggestion is that go for combined, and you will hardly find any paper after 2010 who are using individual CFA. Hardly you will find any paper, because people are now saying that we are using covariance based SCM. So objective and basic assumption of covariance based SCM is that in each and every method, whatever you are using, whatever method you are using, that should use the basic assumption of covariance. So it should be covariate. So my suggestion is that always use total one go, because in may be possible that result will not affect much. Hardly you will find the difference of 0.02 or 0.001 or 0.001. That will not affect you. So why you are killing the space, that I don't know. You are putting variable 1 again result, variable 2 again result, variable 3 again result. So you have 15 variable. It will take 30 pages. As a reviewer,
according to Professor Joseph Hare, he has preferred unit. We need to construct unit CFA, no, sir.
So then be a Professor Hare book started from 1998 to, and then that time he has told you, go to the Professor Hare's paper in 2017 and 2010. What he is saying, that on that very time covariance based concept was not there. People used to run regression only. So what they are doing, they are just doing individual and then they are running it. But go to the book of structure equation modeling, covariance based structure equation modeling, Barbara Bryant, see there what they have written. Go to the book of Hayes, what they have written. Go to the big papers of Hare et al 2017 and see what they have written. So there are some new development is going on, and don't go by that. Definitely result has no, I have told you now, there is no major difference in the result, but you are just killing the space. You run it individually, you will run it simultaneously. Other benefit is that, I can tell you, when you will run individually, how you will get the model fit of CFA? How you will get the model fit of CFA? You will get it or not? You will not get it? Definitely you will not get it.
Pooled CFA we can get it, sir, but individual CFA,
You will not,
we are facing some problems, sir.
Definitely, when you will run the individual CFA, you will not get the model fit. So where is the model fit? If I am reviewer and I will ask you what is the model fit of your measurement model, what you will say? Sir, I did not check it.
Sir, so, but according, if your internal supervisor committee is there, some 4 to 5 professors, if they ask you why you have done, why can't you go, why you have done pooled CFA, why can't you go for individual CFA? Is there any paper to cite for me, sir, during the presentation?
All the paper, all the recent paper. So ask them if your internal, and with due respect, ask them, sir, I have gone through many papers after 2010. Can you show me one paper, one research paper where they have doing individual, and please give me that. They will not able to give you that.
They stated that this is an article, for that sake, space is a major factor, for that sake they are doing pooled CFA. But comes to dissertation, it needs to give a clear cut and precise and concise information. In that sake, they have to go for unidimensional CFA, they are saying, sir.
So let me
we are in a dilemma.
Who is saying that we have very many space in dissertation? We have only now UGC rules is coming and you can't put your dissertation more than 200 including all things. So you have only 200 pages and you have to include 2 or 3 or 4 studies. I don't think you have space. And if I have a space, why I will go to 200 pages? My dissertation total including references and all is only 110 pages and people accepted it. The game theory, if you go to Dion Nash given game theory on that, his dissertation of 18 pages. So it does not measure, the page does not measure. If you want to fill the page, fill it. Then you go fill it. Give thousands of citation, give the 300 page reference. No one is stopping you that. But according to me, new, and that is the go to the some of the MIT website and see some of the dissertation, how they have written the dissertation. They have dissertation, writing the dissertation is such a concise manner that 3 papers, 3 different papers, 3 different references, and just combine it, and that is dissertation. Objective of dissertation is do what you did. So if you want to increase the paper, you have many options to increase the paper. Give the figures for all the CFA what you have did. Give the figure out. Use all the table. Use ANOVA table. Use Cronbach alpha table individually. So what you can do? You can use Cronbach alpha for variable 1, Cronbach alpha variable 2, Cronbach alpha variable 3. Use all the table. You have all the luxury to enhance the paper, but that's not very great thing. So if, and again I am saying, if your internal supervisor is saying it, go by it. You don't have any choice. But you can logically you can say that what is used, sir? We are getting similar result if you are viewing individually, or what is difference? First you should know what is difference. There is no any difference when you are doing it individually and we are doing it covariance. And when you are using covariance based analysis, why you are violating the basic assumptions that all the variables what you are using should be covariant. That is the basic assumption of this covariance based analysis. So that's why I am saying,
sir, individual CFA we are getting the GFI, CFI and yes sir, all values are nearly 0.99, sir. And when it comes to chi-square value, it is much beyond the threshold values.
Definitely you will get it because you are checking only 3 items, na? So definitely most of the time. But what is your model fit then? For variable 1 you will get some model fit. For variable 2 you will get some model fit. For variable 3 you will get some model fit. What is your measurement model fit? I want to know what is your measurement model fit. Can you tell me if you are doing individually?
Sir, individually I am facing lot of problems, sir. But when I have gone for pooled CFA, I found nearly the chi-square value less than 3, CFI above 0.95, and SRMR value point all within the excellent values, sir. But comes to unidimensional means everything is getting mismatched, sir.
So when you are doing in unidimensional model fit doesn't make any sense in that case. When you are doing unidimensional,
Definitely.
model fit doesn't make any sense, because model fit dimension is what? Model is what? Model, my model is all the variables coming together. My model is not the combination of one variable. So definitely you have to be there, and definitely I will take some of the question, because otherwise I think other participants are getting bored that what we are talking about. So I will take your question offline, but my suggestion is that if your guide is saying that you have to use in unidimensional, use it, but logically you can humbly you can request, sir, why I have to do it, because we are getting most of the time similar result. We are objective of CFA is to get factor loading rather than anything. So, and after factor loading we will calculate AB and CR. That is my objective of a measurement model, to check the reliability and validity of the scale. So in that case, most of the time you will get the similar result. So if your guide is saying go by it, I don't have any say in that. But when you are writing paper, definitely that's not the right method that you are doing it individually. People are doing it individually, but I suggest you go to some good institutes who used to publish their dissertation on their website, and see that how they are reporting the result, and you will amaze that there is no difference between paper and dissertation. For them, both are same, and they used to aggregate 3 papers and 4 papers and make one dissertation. That's where they are doing essay 1, essay 2, essay 3, essay 4. That we call use essay method. It will take time, but in India, you can say that I can talk about IITs and IIMs. We are not using that that we have to fill the page. We have to be 100 page more than sufficient. Anything which is greater than 100, for us, it's good. Objective of dissertation is to make some sense rather than filling the page. That's why they have reduced it to 200, because what people are doing, people are writing the thesis of 400 pages, 500 pages. So that's why they have put the limit, that what you can say, external limit, that you are not supposed to write more than 200 pages, because otherwise you will write a story and no one willing to read the story. That's the point. So that's again depend on your guide. I am not say that you will become Vidrohi and say that no, I will do that only, because end of the day you have to get the degree also. But humbly you can request them, the sir, results are not very different, so I am doing this. If you want to increase the page, I will do one more study to just check the validity. Post-hoc study I will do to just enhance the page. That you can humbly ask to your guide. That's my suggestion. So when we talk about measurement model, we have CFA model. In CFA, what we are doing, you have to run the CFA, and after running CFA, how you will write the result? You have to put one table called measurement table. And for example, my variable is called variable number 1, and I have variable number 2, and I have variable number 3. Always take all the variable, including mediator, moderator, output variable, input variable, all together. So you have to take all the variables together, but variables should be unobserved. You can't take gender here because gender is observed. So whatever unobserved variable for which you have asked certain question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, take all the variable in the CFA. So variable 1, we have question number 1, question number 2, question number 3. For variable 2, we have question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, question number 4. For variable 1, we have question number 1, question number 2, question number 3. This is my variable name. This is my item. Most of the time, either you can write item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, or you can write the statement here also. So now what paper are following, that you can write a statement here rather than putting questionnaire in the appendix. Why not writing the statement here? So some of the paper, what they will do, they will write here item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, and they will put the questionnaire into the appendix. Some of the people, what I am following, I am writing questionnaire here only in the measurement model. Then I have to write first column is called FL. FL is nothing but factor loading, whatever factor loading you are getting. So I am getting 0.7, 0.8, 0.8, 0.7, 0.6, 0.7, 0.9, 0.1, sorry, 0.3, 0.4, sorry, 0.8, 0.9. Now there is a dilemma here. So you can say that this is perfectly fine, or factor loading are greater than 0.7, no issue, I will keep it. Here can you see that one variable, one item has factor loading less than 0.6. What to do? Don't delete here. Don't delete this item here. So what people are doing, I will remove this item and again you will run the CFA. Don't do this here. Wait for some time. Here also you can say that something is below 0.3. Don't delete item here. What you have to do at next stage, you have to calculate ABE. AB is nothing but average variance explained square of these all variable divided by number of items. So you know, all of the people know the formula. I will not discuss the formula here because it will take time. So you are getting this value 0.52, this value 0.51, and this value 0.62. If you are getting this value more than 0.5, don't delete anything at the first time. So don't delete the item which is having less than 0.7 FL till the time you are getting AB is greater than 0.5 and CR is greater than 0.7. But if you are getting this value is 0.48, then what you have to do? You have to delete this item and you have to run the CFA again. Then this value will be definitely, it will go and increase because you have deleted one item. So that will come to the. So at the first time when your factor loading is very less, don't delete those items. What you have to do? You have to go with this AB and CR. So then you have to calculate CR 0.71, 0.79, 0.89, it's coming. Here you have to write Cronbach alpha. Cronbach alpha and CR, most of the time you will get similar. So 0.7, there will be hardly any difference, 0.88 like this. There will be difference of 0.8 and 0.2. So some of the new development in the paper is that they are not writing Cronbach alpha. So this is the measurement model table you can write. Definitely you have different method you can use for reporting the result, but this is the best method to report your result. Now, one thing you have to understand here, that why we are using this AB, CR, alpha. So I have told you that we have to establish two things after reliability and validity. So for reliability, we have checked that Cronbach alpha should be greater than 0.7. There are some citation who is saying that if it's greater than 0.6, you can take it if your sample size is very less, because this is sample size sensitive. If your sample size is very high, you can take this. So some people are saying it, but there are few literature about it, very few. So my suggestion is that take safer side. If Cronbach alpha is 0.71, you take it. If it's not coming, so if Cronbach alpha is not coming 0.7, so you have to check that which is having Cronbach alpha less, and you have to delete those. So in that Cronbach alpha, when you are running Cronbach alpha, one option is there. If item deleted, what will be the Cronbach alpha? Check there that if deleting 1 and 2 items, you are getting alpha or not. That you have to do before running CFA. So that you have to do and come up with that sum of the item which will survive there. Some of the cases, what you have to do, that it's coming 0.7, 0.6, but if you will delete this is coming 0.7 or 0.9, then you have to use this item. So that is the one method you should remember, and don't include into the CFA. You have to delete that at the reliability stage only. In ABE stage now, ABE should be greater than. So there are, when we talk about validity, we have three types of validity. One is called content validity, second is called discriminant validity, and third is called convergent validity. So we have three types of validity: convergent, discriminant, and content. Content validity is nothing. You are sending your questionnaire to expert and they will validate. Or face validity, we are saying that you have to send it and they will check that you are doing right thing or wrong thing. So whatever question wordings are right or not, whatever question you have asking is right or not, the number of question is right or not. So this type of question we will check through face validity. Second, we call convergent validity. The condition for this convergent validity is that ABE should be greater than 0.5 and CR should be greater than 0.7. If your items are variables are following this, then you have to fulfill this. Means your measurement model is perfectly convergent valid. Then we are talking about discriminant validity. How you will write the discriminant validity? You have to write this. In discriminant validity, how you have to report? There must be some different table for discriminant validity. So for example, we have three variable: variable 1, variable 2, variable 3, and you have to use all the input, moderating, mediating, all variable will come here, and V1, B2, B3. Then here the correlation between B1, B2, 0.3, 0.4. This will B2 and V3, it will be 0.1. And here in the cross diagonal value, B1, you have to write what? You have to write AB square. Either you can use, when you are using it correlation, if you are using correlation, so correlation squared should be AB. So square root of correlation you have to AB is. So here what will become? a square root of ABE. So for example, is 510, a square root will be around 0.7. A square root of ABE for variable 2 is 0.79 and 0.89. So that I am creating another table for better understanding. So B1, B2, B3, B1, B2, B3, and this is my correlation 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and this is my ABE. ABE is 0.7, AB is 0.8. This is a square root of ABE, and this is 0.9. I have to compare this ABE with row and column correlation, and that should be greater than row and column. So 0.7 is greater than 0.1 and greater than 0.2. 0.8 is greater than 0.3 and greater than 0.1. So this and this, it should be greater than. For example, if we are seeing here, so this is my 0.7. So 0.7 should be greater than this, and 0.7 should be greater than this. So the AB, square root of ABE, should be greater than horizontal and vertical, whatever correlation is coming in. Or alternatively, you can take correlation square and compare with ABE. So you have to compare either under root ABE with correlation, or you have to compare ABE with correlation square. You have both the options you can compare. And if your ABE is greater than all correlation square when we are saying means related with vertical and vertical and horizontal, and either ABE square root is greater than correlation, you can say that my value is discriminant, that discriminant valid. So you have to check measurement model. Measurement model, we are checking for reliability and checking convergent validity, and for discriminant validity we are having rule, and rule is saying that discriminant validity, that a square root of ABE should be greater than correlation, or ABE should be, and there are different citations. Fornan and Lecker did in 1981 started discriminant method. There are other methods are also there that we will not discuss here, but there are different other methods to check the discriminant validity. So we have now three tables. First table, demographic. Second table, we have this what you can say, this measurement model, and third table is called discriminant analysis table. We are creating three table. Now we have to create path analysis. Here you have to take certain decision before running the path analysis. In path analysis, you can go for SCM, you can go for regression. You have both two of the option you have. Either you can go for the regression, or either you can go for a structure equation modeling. I will tell you the situation where you are supposed to use regression, where you are supposed to use path structure equation modeling. That I will let you know. Any question till here?
No, sir, you're really speaking very excellent. Thank you very much. Please be kind to carry on.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question. If
A question,
you allow
do we
me.
need to do EFA or CFA
What
in case
can
we
you
are
please
adopting a
re-
question?
can you please repeat the question? I did not get you.
For example, if you want to measure something and there is already some measurement scale available,
Yeah.
now you don't want to design your own questionnaire. Is it necessary that for that adopted questionnaire you have to do EFA or CFA?
You must not use EFA in that case. You must not use EFA, because if you are using the EFA, one, you disrespecting those scholar who have already developed the measurement school. They did 8 study and come up with 3 items measuring a particular construct. You are taking those construct and again you want to group it. Why? I don't know. Again, what your objective of EFA? What is your objective of EFA? That these 3 items should belong to this group, one group. That is your objective of EFA. That's it. That you want. So why you are doing this? You have already, with your literature is saying that these 3 items are measuring adaptation intention. So use it now. Check it validity and reliability in your particular context. If you are using in that particular context with certain different sample size, why you want to group it again? So whenever you are taking adaptable scale, my suggestion, don't go for EFA till the time you have new scale. Why you are using it? That objective, go through the objective of EFA. What is the objective of EFA? To just group the variable. That's it. Group the item. That is the only objective. On the basis of EFA, you can't establish any of the hypothesis. You can't say that if that factor load is coming 0.7, that you can say that this is having major impact or mere impact. If that total variance coming 88% or 77%, you can't say that this is my R square. You can't tell anything after EFA. Objective of EFA is to just group the variable. So my suggestion is that when you have already identified that these variables belong to this group, so why you are again want to check it? So if you want to check it, but that's not the right method to do it. That's my suggestion.
Sir, I mean, particularly on this question, with due respect to you and your kind permission,
Yeah.
if I mean something is being developed by the very first time, then should I go through the EFA first?
First time you are developing, na?
Yes, sir. Or
Then-
any researcher is developing.
You have to do. Then that is must. I have told you that
Okay.
when you are developing items.
Yes, sir. You told me actually. I mean, yesterday you cleared that confusion of
I
mine.
have to do it because
Okay.
if I am taking certain interview, I come up with certain item. I'm not knowing that if this item belong to which variable. I'm not knowing. I have to give some name to those variables, some new name to those variables. Because when Parshuraman scale developed those scale circle, in first hand they are not knowing that 5 dimension will come. They were not knowing that reliability will be there. So after seeing EFA, they have say that what these 4 factor means, and they gave the name called reliability after seeing those variable items. So when you are developing a scale, when you are developing the scale in first hand, you are not knowing that what variable will come. So you are not knowing what item will be there, what variable will come. So in that case, you have to use EFA. You have to group the particular items and give the name to those particular items.
Okay,
Yeah,
sir, please be kind to me. If I mean such kind of a scenario is coming that where I am not developing it for the first time, but on the basis of the literature, I'm not getting it from the one literature, but by combining, I mean 2 or 3 literature. So the model actually is getting changed. I mean, some variable is getting discarded and some variable is getting, I mean, included. In this sort of scenario, sir, what I should do?
No, don't do EFA again. EFA will again what group this? For yesterday, I have explained you that
Yes, sir.
5
Yes, sir.
items
Yes,
I have taken
Yes, sir.
for the interactivity. 3 items I have taken from a study 2. But
Yes, sir.
all these 3 item and 5 item belong to which group? Interactivity. That
Yes,
have
sir.
already confirmed, na. So you have
Yes,
confirmed
sir.
that this
Exactly.
is the variable. So why I will run EFA? If you will after EFA, what we will confirm that these 5 item or 8 item belongs to interactivity. That we will confirm. So that we will confirm from literature. Now why I will go for EFA? And if one item is not suitable, that will deleted after CFA. Definitely that
Yes,
will delete after reliability, after validity, after discriminant validity. That will delete it. So why I will again check the group? So that's why I'm saying that don't go by statistics, go by literature. And literature should drive your statistics rather than statistics should drive your literature. So that is the
Okay. Okay. So then, on very last question, for example,
Yeah.
I mean, in a particular, I mean, item, there is 3 item in on. Sorry, there is 3 variable in on literature, and there is 4 variable in another literature. And for the study of my sake, I am actually taking 2 variable from one literature, but actually discarding, I mean, another one. And from the other, I mean, research paper, I am actually collecting 2 variable, but actually, I mean, discarding another 2 variable. In that sort of scenario as well, I know that, okay, this particular variable belongs to that item only. That's why I do not need to go
Run
for the
the
EFA again.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. The confusion is quite clear now. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so you come to the discriminant validity. Now you have to check the relationship. Any question till here? Then I will go to the next level called.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
yes,
sir,
please.
I'm having a question.
Yeah,
Sir,
please.
sometimes we'll modify the scales which are developed by experts. Like we'll modify in our study context. Like someone has already developed a construct which has been modified in our study. In that case, sir, whether we should run EFA or is it not necessary, sir?
Not required because what I will change. For example, I can give you an example. I have taken a scale to measure purchase intention. So I am likely to purchase mobile next year. I will purchase mobile next year. This is most positive, or this is probable that I will go purchase mobile next year. That is 3 construct for purchase intention of mobile. Now I am coming through service adoption. So I will use mobile banking next year. What you will change? You will change only mobile with mobile banking. or you will change
Yeah.
only mobile with education. So you are not changing the wording of the question. I will, you probably use will remain same. I will definitely use will remain same. I will tend to use will remain same. For example, for subjective norm, we have question. My family wants me to use mobile phone. My family, so what I will change? My family wants me to use mobile banking. My family, my peers want me to use mobile phone or a smartphone. My family wants use me e-learning. So we are changing that context only. We are not changing the wording of the question. So in that case, why you are doing the EFA? Because I am not changing the question. I am just changing, questions remain same, but I am changing the context only. From smartphone, it will become mobile. In that case, it's not equal, because most of the time we are taking the definitely, if I want to know the adoption intention of mobile banking, there will be hardly some paper. That's why I'm doing this study. My study is very new. So what I will do, I will take some of the scale from different context and I can use it directly. And you can see that most of the paper, they are taking the literature from different context and using in their scale, and they are coming direct through CFA, and through CFA they can examine it, that it's valid or reliable or not. So
Okay,
in
okay,
that
thank
case
you.
also it's not necessary. But I can say why this whole confusion of EFA and CFA is going on. Again, that what someone asked previously, that my guide is saying that you have to do it, you do it, because some of the time we have to fill the page also. So EFA will take at least 20 pages at least, because we will say that all agglomeration table, rotation, after rotation, before rotation, then all the loading. So all loading, after deleting this 0.3 loading, after taking 5 loading, intercorrelation. So you will have 20 good pages. You can 20 to 30 pages you can create. That's why if you want to use it, I don't have any issue in that. But for the future purpose, because we are torch bearer for the new generation. If you will follow all the methods what people are using previously, so we will again tell to my scholar to do this. Again, your scholar will tell next scholar to do this. So this will be common in the genes. So we have some point of time we have to take that, and that's why when I have started my session, I have asked to visit some of the places in the foreign countries, good university, interact with people. You know that they are making some good development in it, and they are challenging the existing thing what is going on. So if someone is using, I don't have any issue in that. I have huge respect for the guide. I have huge respect for your method. I have huge respect for your dissertation. But everything whatever using should be logical, based on problem and based from this literature. So you can't, no one will, you also knowing that our dissertation will go to the only 2% for examining. Other 100 people or million people will not examine my dissertation. So it depends on that 2% and 3 my internal guide who will decide that my guide dissertation is right or wrong. So I can't say that if my dissertation is 100% right, and I can tell you with confidence that when I am seeing my dissertation, I see that what I did in my dissertation, all the mistakes I did in my dissertation, because on that very time I was learning the things. So in PhD, it's rather than doing the things, you are learning how to do the research. So definitely you will make certain mistakes. Your guide is there to rectify those mistakes and to add something into it. But not to worry. In most of my dissertation, there are thousands of mistakes now I can identify, because on that very time I was not knowing most of the things. So I did some of the minute mistake, but it's okay. It's fine. But in paper, because dissertation, people are not citing dissertation for the theory building and the practical implication. People citing paper. When you will write paper, in 10 pages you will get 5 reviewer, and if each and recently I got one rejection from one of the journal, and paper size will be 12 pages, and you believe or not, their comment size is 8 page comment I got. So you can imagine how minutely they will go in and they will check you. So there it matters. In dissertation, definitely you are having certain issue that's not bothering literature much, but definitely try your best to make it as accurate as you can.
Sir,
But
may I
yeah,
ask
yeah,
you a
please.
question?
Yeah,
Sir,
please.
Thank
as
you,
you
sir.
have said
Thank you
that
so
if there
much.
is established measurement scale in the literature, and if the context changes, you need not have to undertake the CFA once again. But if it happens,
EFA.
yeah, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
So if if in the same context, sir, after surveying the literature, if we find that different literature takes into account different set of variable in the measurement scale. So if I combine all of them and prepare an exhaustive list of variables and contain them in
Then do it. then do it. Then go for EFA. Then do it, because you are changing data. Now you are coming with some new variable. You want to develop some new variable, combining all. So then whenever new will come, use EFA. When existing is there, don't use EFA. Simple definition you have to remember. So that is all about EFA and CFA. You have to come up with CFA, then come with measurement model, then discriminant validity, then path analysis. Path analysis, people are saying, I will use SCM. Why? I don't know. But I have to use SCM because people are using it. So 1,000 people I have seen the dissertation, people have used the SCM. I will also use the SCM. No need to use the SCM only. There are certain conditions you have to use SCM, and there are certain conditions. So if your independent variable is many and your dependent variable is one, strictly use regression, multiple regression, MR. So if you have only one dependent variable and 10 independent variable, why you are running the SCM, I don't know. Because the structure equation modeling, the basic assumption of structure equation modeling, we are using a structure equation modeling in two conditions. When you have more than two dependent variable, or sometimes your independent variable will become dependent variable for something. Means like either you have this 3 variable or 2 output variable. In this case, you are supposed to run SCM because you will not get it in the regression. You have to run 2 regression. First regression this and second regression this. So in this case, you can do it. And secondly, you have 3 variable. These 3 variables lead to this. So this is dependent variable. Now this lead to some other variable. Now this is independent variable. This is the only condition where you have to use SCM. Otherwise, if you have one dependent variable and many independent variables, go by regression. Nothing harm in that. So that is. So when you have IB many and DB many, then you have to use SCM. Again, there is big debate here, and I want to be in debate of this, that in SCM we have 2 parts called PLS and covariance weight, CV based SCM. People are saying this is very good, this is right, this is wrong. There is huge debate. People who are following PLS will say that PLS is best. People who are following covariance method said covariance method is best. Both methods are right, but both method is the particular situation. CV based SCM, there are 2 types of construct. You know, there are 2 types of construct. One construct is called reflective construct. So you can see that this is reflective construct. Item 1, item 2, item 3. So this is called reflective construct. Sorry, I have to put the charging and then I will take the session. Sorry. Yes. So what? One type of called reflective construct means these 3 items. For example, I have asked 3 questions to measure satisfaction, and these 3 items are measuring satisfaction. But if one item will deleted, satisfaction will not change. We will able to measure. For example, this is my one variable called satisfaction. We have asked 4 questions for it. Question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, question number 4. If one is got deleted, satisfaction will change or it will remain same? It will remain same. We will able to measure with 3 items. That we call reflective, and arrow sign will go by this side. So most of the unobserved variable are reflective in nature. Second, one type of variable is called formative construct. So like your life standard, or if you want to get admission in IM, so dependent variable is get admission in IM, and we have 3 items. You have to have CGPA, you have to have CAT score, and you have to have some condition that you have to have 60% in graduation. If anyone will not follow, you will not get the admission. That we call formative construct. When 3 items are forming some variable and all items are required to measure a particular variable, in that case we are doing formative construct. Be with me. When you have all, first condition to use PLS, when you have any formative construct in your study, use PLS, otherwise use CBSM. First condition. If you are all reflective construct, you are going for PLS. Why? I don't know. You can go for it, but definitely most of the time you ask by the reviewer that why you have asked, or you asked by examiner why you have a PLS SCM, because PLS SCM has some limitation that I will discuss in detail. But definitely when you have reflective in formative construct, you can't run CBSCA. You have to go with PLS SCM. If your sample size is very less, some of the time I have, and you have to justify it. I am collecting data from consumer who are using mobile banking, and I say that I have only 50 customers. This is not good justification. There are millions of customers who are using mobile banking and you have collected only 50 response. That is your fault. But when my response, my sample or sample unit is CEO of the limited company. So in India, we have limited number of CEO and very difficult to approach them. So my population size is very less, or my sample is CM of the different chief minister of the India. So we have only those CMs which are there, 30 to 32, 31 CMs are there. So I have to go with them only, and I have to, my sample size is very less. In that case, I can't do CBSCM. I go with PLSS. So if your sample size is less, then you should go for PLS. Otherwise, you have to go the CM. So if your sample size is more than 100, again, there on the sample size, there is big debate that sample size should be, someone is saying that sample size should be 1:5, sample size should be 1:10, sample size should be 1:15, sample size should be 1:20. That depends on the context, but generally most of the people are following 10 to 50. So if you have 10 question in your dissertation, you have to have at least 100 to 150 response. Some people are following 5 also, depend on the context of the study, on the nature of the study rather than anything. In some cases 1:5 will be workable, but a number which people are coming up with is called 200. 200 is the mode, this number which we have to go through. So you have to write that if you have 200 number, all reflective, go for CBSCM. If you have less than 200 and you are or you have reflective or formative construct with you, go for PLSSCM. The only problem with PLSSCM is this is not giving the model fit. So model fit of PLSSCM is absolute, and there is no point. That's spurious, and you are not, when you are running any of the analysis using PLSM, my suggestion, although they are giving some value, PLS is giving certain value of model fit, SRMR value they are giving, and they are giving ISM GFI value they are giving. Don't write those values that I have achieved model fit, because objective of PLSSCM is to just establish the relationship between two variables rather than checking the variance. So there is no any variation and relationship between input variable and output. So all the variable. So how it's difference, I will tell you. When you are running in the CBSCM, you have 3 input variable. What you are doing? You covariate them all. And then you have one dependent variable. Then you are relating this relationship. Means your own input variables are covary between each other. Means you are developing a model. You are considering all the variable together. In PLSSCM, that is not there. Variable 1, variable 2, variable 3, and this. So it's just checking the relationship between input and output variable rather than model fit. So CBSCM is giving model fit. PLSSCM is not giving model fit. Situation if you have formative construct, and that is the only situation. If you have formative construct, go for PLSSCM. Your sample size is less, go for PLSSCM. When your study is very new, when I want to check impact of blockchain on organizational performance, some new studies coming in, I'm not very much sure that model fit will come or not. In that case, if you are exploring some new thing, you can go for the PLSSCM. These are only conditions to use PLSSCM. Other than that, use CBSCM. I am not against of any of the technique. Both are same. Both have similar validity, but only difference is that construct wise, because in CBSCM you can't check the reliability and validity of the formative construct. That you can only check in the PLSSCM. First thing, and second thing is that when your sample size is less, you will get very less probability that you will get model fit in the covariance based SCM. Third, when you have your study is very new, you can go for PLSSCM. Otherwise, because if you will compare the score of PLSSCM and CBSCM, most of the time at PLS you will get right result. So most of the time, most of the path will be significant. You will get good beta compared to, because in covariance based SCM this will affect na. So SCM is what? It's nothing but regression. So in PLSSCM you are running fit line 1, fit line 2, fit line 3. This is for this is for this, and this is for this. In covariance based SCM you are coming only one fit line model fit, which is combining of this also. So there is less chances of getting satisfaction, getting beta value significant in covariance based SCM compared to PLS. That's why most people for safer side using PLSSCM. But whenever you are using PLSSCM, you have to justify that why you are using PLSSCM. If you have one dependent variable, why you are using SCM, again you have to justify that why you want to use SCM. You have one dependent and many independent. Use regression na. Why you are using this what you can say, model fit. So that is the some. There are some techniques also there. So again, one thing, sometimes we want to check hierarchical relationship or two-way relationship. So in that case, in MOS and PLS, you can't check two-way relationship. It's one way only. So you can't put the arrow from this side to that side. For that, we have one software called M+. M+ will check the hierarchical relationship as well as this two-way relationship. So there are different softwares, but for each and every software, there is some condition. And you have to use the software very carefully on the basis of condition only rather than something. Any doubt till here you can ask, then I will tell you how you can report the result. Any doubt till here? PLS SCM, CV SCM, M+, regression versus this SCM. So how you will write the result? I will tell you that what people are doing most of the time, we just copy the result, whatever we are getting as an output, and just paste it. Don't do this. Don't do this. My suggestion, never do this. How you can write the result, I will tell you here. How you can report the result of CBSCM or PLSSCM, whatever you are getting. So you are, whenever you are getting the result in SCM, that will say this side, this my input variable, and this is my output variable like this. They are giving arrow that is in the other direction. What you have to do? You have to write result. I am writing result. How you can write? Either you can write path or hypothesis, beta value, SC. That is more than sufficient, but sometimes people are using T and P. I don't know why, but people are writing this. If you want to write this, you can write this, but I am using till here only, and I will tell you in dissertation you can write T value and P value, but in paper you are supposed to write beta and SC only. So path means variable 1 to output, variable 2 to output, variable 3 to output. So you have to put the variable name. Beta 0.3, 0.1, 0.4, 1, 3, 1, 1, 2. So if it is significant at the 0.00 level, give 3 star. If it is the not significant, write NS. If it is significant at 0.0 level, give 2 star. Accordingly, you can write in the table that 3 star means P is less than 0.001, comma, double star P means P is less than 0.01. Single star means P is less than 0.05 and NS is equal to not significant. Write it very carefully. And SC, standard error. So you have to give the value 0.01, 0.09, 0.08, whatever value it's coming, you have to write that. Now why I'm not suggesting to write T and P in the report? Because T is nothing but beta upon SC. So beta divided by standardized beta divided by SC will give the value of T. So you are not supposed to write it. If you want someone want to calculate it, they will calculate it. Again, so you are not supposed. Here P, you can write here if your P value 0.002, you can write this 0.5, you can write it here 0.02, 0.003. You can write P value also, no harm in that. But when I am giving a star, that is understood that P value is less than that or P value is greater than that. One more important thing, always write this SC, T and P. Take from your first table, mean an unstandardized beta table. First you will, whenever you are running a structure equation modeling, you are getting first table and unstandardized beta. And there you will get SC, T and P. So you have to take from there. And sometimes you will not get the T, you will get CR. So CR is nothing but T only. And beta, you have to take a standardized beta. Second table, whenever you are running the analysis in SCM, click on the standardized beta, you will get a standardized coefficient, and right from second table, write the beta. So you are not supposed to write a standardized beta, you are supposed to write a standardized beta. So write a standardized beta, SC, T and P from first table and a standardized beta from second table. That you have to write. But in paper, my request, Right till here only. In thesis, your choice, you can go for T and P, that is your choice. Again, if you want to make the understand with the reviewer will stand and our examiner will stand right these two value only. They will easily calculate T value and P value. I definitely one can understand who are knowing the statistics that how T is coming and how P is coming. So if T will greater than 2, I can understand definitely it will be less than P will be less than 0.05 till the time SC is not very much high. So some of the reviewers are knowing these facts. So that's not necessary to write it, but you can write if you want. Another thing you have to write here is called model fit. So you have to write model fit here. So you have to write CMN by DF. Whatever value you are getting, it should be, there are different conditions. CFI, I don't want to go into that, GFI, NFI, TLI, and then AGFI and RMSCA. That is must. You can write this. Other than that, if you want to write anything, you can write it. But this you are supposed to write this value here only in the back end of the table. That's it. This is the reporting of the table of path analysis. You got it or not? Again, you have if two output variable, first write one output variable, then output 2, V1, V2, V3 and output 2. You are not supposed to write V1 to output 1 and V1 to output 2. That's not look good. So what you have to do, V1 output 1, V2 output 2, V3 output 1, V1 output 2, V2 output 2 and V3 output 2. Like that you have to write the result here. Any doubt in this path analysis? That is only thing you have to report if you have only path analysis and if you don't have any mid-rater and moderator in your paper. That is all about this. So this is how you can write the. Now we will come under, because we have very less time. I think we have only 40 minutes with us and I want to give 15 minutes at least for Q&A or discussion. So I will take you through in bit hurry, but definitely I will make you understand whatever I am saying here and whatever I want to say here. In scale development, how you can go for scale development? In scale development, first method you have to write item generation method, where you have to write, we have taken interview, you have taken focus group, FGD, you are either you can take an online method, online review, or ethnography, in ethnography, you did some content analysis, literature, whatever you did qualitative analysis, write all the items. For example, I have got 108 items. In dissertation, you have to write all 801 items, whatever you have received. At the after interview or qualitative study, whatever you did. In the paper, you have to put into the appendix, not write in the main paper. You have to put into the appendix. So first thing is that you have to specify clearly how you have generated the item. So what people are doing and how people are writing. People are writing in such a manner that we have conducted interview, we have conducted FGD, we have conducted online ethnography or ethnography. After that, all interviews were recorded, transcript has been created, and we go through the transcript and we come up with coding methods. So we come up with different codes. Codes means different items or different keywords. So we have identified different codes out of it, and one people is not doing it, 2 person is doing it, and end of the day we examine intercoder reliability, that they are coming up with same or not. Some of the intercoder reliability, and that's we call grounded theory, what people are doing as a grounded theory. So first option in scale development and first method in scale development, that go for qualitative study, come up with certain item which is very much relatable to your study. So I am coming through 108 items. Now I will collect data for the 108 items. Here after that you have two choice, quantitative, item generation. For factor reduction, item reduction, you have two choice, quantitative or qualitative. So for quantitative, you have to collect the response for this 108 items, 8 question, and run the EFA. So here you have to run the EFA. For qualitative, what you can do, again on the basis of logic, you have to divide this 108 items into different group. You will delete some of the items which is not relevant. You have to delete the item which is repetitive in nature. You have to delete the item which is not related to your context. And after that, you will reduce the item and you have to divide into different group. So after that, maybe possible you have come up after EFA, I got 54 items and other items got there. Here also I got 54 items and we got 5 dimension. Dimension 1, dimension 2, dimension 3, dimension 4, dimension 5. Here also I got 5 dimension. So whatever dimension you are getting, so you have to reduce the total 100 item to the minimum number of the item, and then you have to decide how these items are related to each other. Some people, some of the study, when you go to the, when you will go through the paper of eSERV called developed by Parshuramal, Jethmal and Malhotra, when you will go by that method, you can say that here only after CFA, they have run EFA after run their CFA also. So they don't want to check the reliability here also or validity here also. So you can run CFA also here at the point of item reduction, and you can reduce some of the item there if you find some items are not reliable or some items are not valid. So you have both types then. Either you can run only EFA or you can run EFA and CFA both at that place, and or you can what you can do, you can do qualitative study, and after grounded theory we can swing, and they have different approach, deductive approach or inductive approach. We have two approach. Use any of the approach and come up with some of the reduced item and some of the variable which is related to it. That is a study number 1. That is a study number 2. Now we have 54 item with us. What I will do? I will again collect the data with fresh people, not with these people who have already responded. I have again collect the data for 54 items, and at this stage identify some of the predictive or outcome variable. At this stage only identify some of the outcome variable and collect the response for those variable also. So other than this 54 item, 5 items measuring service satisfaction and 5 items measuring perceived value. Whatever items you are thinking that is important, you can collect that. So in study 3, you will again collect the response for these 54 items which is related to this and output variable. But when you will run the CFA, don't include outcome variable here. So I will run CFA here only with my measurement model input variable when you are developing a scale. So I will do that only, and I will confirm that, and after CFA I will have only 28 items that belong to 5 group or 4 group, whatever we have, variable 1, variable 2, variable 3, variable 4 and variable 5, whatever variable we have. So we will have 24 items, and that will be my scale. So I have come up with one scale. I have to give the name of that scale. I have to give the name of this variable at the EFA stage only. And after that, I will say that I have developed multiple item scale. That's called 28 item scale. And name is anything, MS qual, whatever you want to give the name, you can give the name. That is at the reliability. And you have to check all the Cronbach alpha, convergent validity, discriminant validity, phase validity, everything you have to check. Then next study. Here you are not supposed to collect the data again. Again, you have to run the CFA including all, because you have to check the CFA of predictive validity to outcome variable 2. Then run the path analysis here. And check that these 5 items is having significant impact on. So what I will do, this is my 5 item. I will check that these 5 items are impacting outcome variable or not, to check the predictive validity or nomenological validity of the scale. That we will do in this stage to check the predictive. This is all about model development. So now if it is established, this is established, this is established, this is established, you are saying that these item or these variable are measuring. So you have to collect the data thrice, at least 3 times, and you have to do item generation, that is qualitative in nature, then item reduction, again quantitative, reliability, validity, quantitative, and quantitative. So I am collecting data thrice. Now some of the recent development work going on, they are doing test retest. So I will collect the I will again go to the with my this 28 item. I will collect the data after 6 months with the same respondent, whatever I have did with this final analysis, reliability and validity, and then I will check that the scale is still valid or not. So to check that reliability test and retest reliability, people are again collecting the data, or you can collect the data in different countries. So what I have developed my scale in the India, what I will do, I will go to the Australian people and I will collect the data. I will go to the US people and collect to check that, to examine the generalability of the scale, that my scale is general for all the context, culture or not. So that's we are doing, and that you can check the test and retest reliability, and you have to do that. This is the method of skill development, and this method given by us way back 1979. Churchill has given this method, and most of the people are following. There are some recent development is going on it, but there is no any major development in the skill method. People are using the similar method to developing the skill. Arnold 2003 give some certain changing into it, but most of the people grounded theory coming in between, and they said that don't go for quantitative analysis while developing the scale. Do grounded theory, do deductive approach, and either deductive approach or inductive approach and develop the scale. So there are some development going on, but most of the people are following this method. That's called a skill development. Any doubt in this skill development method? Report result will remain same. Then we have to come next. Next is called experiment. You have any question, you can ask in between. When we talk about experimental method is same as we are doing survey based method, but only thing you have to develop the scenario. For example, I can tell you very easy example, that we have two conditions: promotion coupon PC, yes or no, and I want to check the impact of this on purchase intention. So for purchase intention, I am collecting the response from 1 to 5 scale. So I have 3 questions to measuring this purchase intention, and I have 2 conditions. One promotion coupon is there, and one condition promotion coupon is not there. Important thing when you are going for experimental research, whenever you are going for experimental, important thing is that how you are manipulating the scenario. So what I will do, I will put 2 systems into a lab. So I will put 2 systems into the lab. I am talking about lab experiment. I will put 2 systems in lab. I will develop a customized website where I will give discount of 20% in a particular product, and I will all the product, and I will ask the student to visit it. Other computer I will put, and there is no discount on this system. All the product has no discount, and this I want to and I will set 20 student into this system, 20 student into this system. Either there are 2 situations now. Either I can ask, put certain amount, so I can give that you have 500 rupees. Do you want to purchase it? So if you can purchase it virtually, you will not get it received, but you can purchase it. Here I will give the 500 rupees and you can purchase it. So then I will not ask the question related to purchase intention. I have my output variable is also, they will put how much they were purchasing. That will be the output variable. So for example, they have here, they have spent 200. Or have they have a first student spend 200, third, second is 300, 4 is 500, 6 is 500. So this will be the output variable rather than purchase intention. Here if someone is spent 0, someone is 200, someone is 100. That will be the output variable rather than purchase. So you have both the option. You can give the amount that you want to spend. So that will tell the actual behavior, actual spending behavior. Or you can ask, so after 15 minutes, you can ask 3 questions. Will you intend to purchase the product? Are you planning to purchase the product? Will you possibility is there that you will purchase the product? And you can collect the data on 5-point Likert scale or 7-point Likert scale. Same you will do it.
Sir, will we send the same number of students or the same students to
No. Different student. If we will send the same student, then there will be biased. So definitely they can compare that they have some. So you will send different student in both the scenario. Definitely then question will come ki what is there any difference between this scenario or not. So definitely what we are saying, that my assumption is that all human beings are thinking similar. That scenario we are sending 20 different students into this and 20 different students into this, and then only we can group it in a different group. So this is my group number 1 and this is my group number 2, and then my now you can say that my independent variable is non-continuous. Group 1 and group 2, and my dependent variable either this scale or this scale. So I will go for ANOVA because I have one dependent variable, either ratio scale purchase, whatever purchase they have made, or their purchase intention. So I will take the average of that. So 4.5, 3.2, whatever it's coming in. So I will use ANOVA in this case. Before doing this, before running this main analysis, what we are doing, we are taking manipulation checking. How we are doing, I will tell you. So first what I will do, I will develop this website where I have given 20% discount, and I will ask 30 people that can you see that there is promotion. if 30 people, and I will ask question, do you think that this scenario is related to promotion? And I will ask question from a strongly agree to a strongly disagree 1 to 7 scale, and then I will check that most of the people, if 70% people are saying that yes, it's following promotion, then I will say that manipulation, whatever manipulation I am making is perfectly fine. Second, I want to check that there is no promotion, so I will tell them that, can you see that this is promotion, this is giving promotion or not? Strongly agree to the strongly disagree. So here a student will what give 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it's less than, if a 5 Likert scale, if it's less than 3, we will say that yes, this is related to no promotion scale. I can give you another example what I did. I want to check the impact of mobile interactivity on mobile banking adoption. So we have given two situations, interactive application and non-interactive application, and our objective is to mobile banking adoption or not. So what I did, I developed one individual customized website in which, and I can show you that paper also. I have developed one paper on that, not mobile banking, that is not still not published, that will get published in few days, but I developed a paper related to purchase intention. So I can show you how we did that. That's not this. I have to go. Be with me 1 second. I will tell you. That is good. It's coming the influence of experiment perception in website interface. So it's slow. So now it's opening. So I will see you that how I have developed two scenario and how we will check the manipulation and how we run the analysis. So we customizedly develop two scenarios, scenario 1, scenario 2. It's less interactivity, so there is no option of different picture. There is no, you can't rotate it, price has not been given, color has not been given. So we have developed two website, website 1 which is not interactive, website 2 which is interactive, and we sent some student to website 1 and some sent to website 2 and ask that, do you want to purchase it? And if they say that I strongly agree to a strongly do, I have collected it a strongly, and accordingly I run this ANOVA to get the result that is interactive, is having significant impact on purchase intention or not. That is called, and you should go through this paper and you can check that how we did manipulation. First we develop the stimuli, then we do manipulation checking, and after manipulation checking, first we do manipulation model, and then we will do measurement model also, because we have asked certain question. So we go for measurement model also. Then we run some post hoc test also. We run some t-test to analyze the post hoc test. We also run some of the post hoc tests in process micro to examine the relationship. So that is something different, but important thing in the experimental research that you have to develop the scenario with your 100% what you can say attention, because in experimental research method doesn't matter. Matter is what is the manipulation. If you are not able to manipulate the scenario, there is no point doing experimental research, because in experimental research you will not do all sort of mediation, moderation or moderated method. That's not required. Simple ANOVA will work there, not to worry. Simple ANOVA and paper will get published in a category journal. But how you have developed the scenario, that is important. How you check the manipulation checking means you are checking the scenario reliability, that scenario is valid or not, that you can do it. And in post hoc test, most of the time what we are doing, we are checking on the basis of gender, we are checking on the basis of income group, on the basis of sometime we have some post hoc analysis t-test we are organizing. After getting the result, we are checking on two different group or two different contexts, we are checking again in the experimental scenario. So you should go through the paper whatever, and I can tell you that nowadays journal are accepting experimental paper mostly. So you go through the most of the journal, they are not welcoming survey based paper. If they are welcoming survey based paper, either your context should be very new, or you have study 1, study 2, study 3, study 4. Otherwise it's bit difficult that they will accept the paper. Now I have little time, but I will go through, take you through mediation and moderation. That is very much important. It's huge debate and huge fascination among the scholar that I will use mediation, I will use moderation, irrespective the context is looking for it or not, my problem is related or not, I will use it, means I will use it. So there are some method to check that mediation is applicable. Definitely, whenever you are using mediation, you have go through the literature, that literature is allowing to use mediation or not. If literature, you don't have any literature support, then my suggestion, don't go for mediation. First condition. Second condition, people have ample amount of data, ample amount of doubt that one variable is mediator or moderator. Variable could be mediator or moderator, depend on the context. So in that particular context, perceived risk is a mediator. In different context, it may be our moderator. Innovativeness may be my mediator in certain context. Innovativeness may be the moderator in the certain context, on the basis of literature only. But there are some condition also to check that this mediator or moderator. That I will tell you how you can examine that that particular this particular variable is moderator or mediator. You want to know how you can check it, I'll let you know. But always go through by literature rather than anything. So this is my A, this is my B, this is my input variable, this is my output variable, this is my mediating variable, that's called M, and this is the relationship. That's called mediation relation. This is direct path and this is indirect path. This whole is called indirect path. Now, if M is the outcome of A and M is the input of the B, if both the two conditions satisfy, then only use as a mediator. So if literature is saying that this input variable has some impact on the mediator and this mediating variable has some impact on the moderator, then you are supposed to use mediator. But when there is no impact of this variable on this, then you should use as a moderator. But most of the time you don't have any impact, but literature is not showing you, because whenever you are writing, whenever you will write moderation and mediation hypothesis, you have to give certain justification. How you will give the justification? From previous literature only. So always go by literature. But one condition I am repeating, that for mediation, one variable you can use as mediator if input variable has impact on this and mediator has impact on this. Moderator you will use if this has no any impact on this. For example, gender. So the service quality has no any impact on gender. So then gender may have impact on this output. That's quite possible. But input has no any impact, should not have any impact on this variable. That is the only condition to know the mediator. This could be mediator trust. So service quality has impact on trust. Trust has impact on loyalty. That's why I am using it. So one condition you can, by relationship also you can see, but it should be coming from logic rather than relationship. That is first condition, and that is the only condition to take the mediation. Now when we run the mediation, Beren and Kani in 1986 come up with one paper related to mediation analysis, and they got more than 90,000 citations till date. So you can imagine at least 90,000 paper has been published related to mediation analysis after 1986. So this is the beauty of mediation. So that's why people are very fascinated about mediation and using the mediation to give the more deeper insights of the in particular phenomena and particular context they are doing it. So I will explain you both the situation Beren and Kani approach, proportion approach, and new development which is coming in of Hayes 2013 approach. I will briefly explain this thing. What Beren and Kani is saying. So this is my A input variable and I put IB rather than A. This is my dependent variable and this is my mediating variable. What Beren and Kani is saying. Beren and Kani has 4 assumptions that this has significant impact on this, have significant amount, that this have significant impact on this. These are the assumptions of Beren and Kani. I am not going into that. I will tell you how you can write the mediation result. For mediation, either you can check it in the AMOS or this PLS or AMOS, or you can check in process macro too. So we have both the tools to examine the mediation. Either you can go through by this what you can say process macro, or you can use CVSCM or PLS. In both the method you can go through, but how to write the result, that is very much important. So how you will write the result? If you are following Beren-Kanin approach, how you will write? I will write see here. So you have to write direct path. You have to write indirect path. And here you have to write A to D, A by IM to D. This is my path. So this is direct path and this is direct indirect path. For direct path, I will get certain beta. I am getting beta 0.3 and this is significant. This is 0.2, this is also significant. We will get certain SC for this 0.08, 0.01. We'll get certain P value and T value if you want to guess it. Now you have how you have to say that there is mediation or mediation is not, there is mediation or partial and full mediation. How you will write that? Remember this table. With the help of this table, you can do this. So this is my direct path. This is my indirect path. And this is the result. So third column will become result. So if my direct path is also significant and indirect path is also significant, then we will say that this is partial. If direct path is significant, direct path is not significant, indirect path is significant, we have full mediation. And if both are not significant, or this is not significant, this is significant, there is no mediation. So whenever you are seeing the result, I will tell you very easily, whenever you are seeing the result of this direct path, indirect path, see the result of indirect path. If it is not significant, there is no mediation, irrespective of any condition. Direct path is significant or that's not case. First, you have to see indirect path. If indirect path is not significant, means there is no mediation, that's it. Forget about other thing. Forget about partial full. But if it's significant, you have to check direct path. If direct path is significant, then it will be partial. If direct path is not significant, it will be the full mediation. You have to write the method. So here it will be, I have to write mediation, and mediation and it's nothing but it's partial. But that's the result you have to write. If it is not significant, if it is coming 0.3, significant it's coming 0.01, not significant, then no mediation. Like this. If this is not significant, 0.1 NS, and indirect path is 0.3 significant, then you will write full mediation. That's you have to write the result. That is one method using Beren and Cannon approach. Another method people are using proportion approach. So how we are doing? So we have indirect beta of indirect path divided by total coefficient. So indirect coefficient divided by total coefficient. How you are calculating indirect coefficient? So you will get some beta. This is C beta. This is my A beta. This is my B beta. So indirect coefficient, total indirect coefficient will be nothing but A into B. This is my indirect coefficient, IC. And my total coefficient will be AB plus C. So this into this beta plus C. And you have to do what? A into B divided by C plus A into B. You have to take the proportion of it. If it is less than 20%, means there is no mediation. If it is between 20 to 80% or 70%, some people are saying, but I am taking 80%, then there is partial mediation. And it is greater than 80%, it means it is full mediation. That is the condition. You can follow either this method or that method. Any doubt till here? Any doubt? Good to go for the moderation because we have hardly 12 minutes. So I will go for the next slide and I'll let you the moderation. When we talk about moderation, we have two types of moderation. Moderation could be your dichotomous and non-continuous variable, or it could be continuous variable. So there are two types of moderation people are calculating. One is called interaction effect, and second people are saying multi-group analysis, MGA. So how you can do it? For example, this is my input variable, this is my output variable, OB, and this is IB, and DB I saying the dependent variable, and there are some moderator which is coming in. So moderator will come like this. So interaction means what? Interaction, how moderation is going, I will tell you. How regression is running behind this. So how, when I want to check the interaction effect, I just want to check that this variable is moderating or not. I am not interested to know that it's positively moderating or negatively moderating, how much moderating at the lower level, how much is moderating at the higher level, it's how much moderating. For example, I want to check the moderation effect of gender. So I just want to check the moderation effect. I don't want to check that for female, what is the beta, for male, what is the beta. That's we call interaction effect. And how it's running. So what they will run, they will do I independent variable into moderating variable. They multiply it and they will check the relation. This will become my output variable, and db will be my this will be my input variable, and this will be my output variable. And they will check that is there any significant impact or not. If that is significant, means there is some moderation. After doing this, you can go to the next level. What you can do, you can divide data set into two parts, male and female. After getting it significant only. If it is not significant, no point go for multi-group analysis. So if it's significant, what we are doing for multi-group. So we divide my data set into two parts, male and female, and we run this model only twice. First for male, second for female, and we will get that what is the value for male and what is the value for female. That we are doing in case of MOS, that you have to do MS. In process macro, you are not supposed to do it. You will get the value for upper level and lower level. So you will get the value for male and female beta value. They are getting interaction value as well as they are getting the level value also. Then in process macro, easily you will get all the value, interaction value as well as multi-group value. But when you are doing it in this MOS or PLS, you will get only interaction value. And again, if you want to check that it's impacting or not, then you have to do it in what you can say, multi-group analysis. Now in gender, we can easily divide my group into two groups, male and female. Income group, I can easily do it. But when we have continuous variable like perceived risk, what I will do, there are different method to divide it. Someone is saying whatever is coming less than 0.25, group number means less perceived risk, greater than 2.5, high perceived risk. If my scale is 5 point Likert scale. Second method, what you are seeing, mean plus 1 SD will be the higher, mean minus 1 SD will be the lower. Whatever will come under this, we will take that. Some people are saying we will take the percentile, 33 percentile, 67 percentile. So whatever this is high, this is medium, this is low. So people are taking that different method to divide the continuous group. So you can use any of the method to divide the group. Most of the time, what we are doing, we are calculating on the basis of this average 2.5 plus 2.5 minus. But some people are now, that is questionable most of the time. So now people are dividing this group on the basis of plus 1 SD. But in process macro, you are not supposed to do it. They have by default option, and they will come up with that final analysis. That's called mediation. And again, some of complex modeling we have called moderated mediation, sequential mediation, parallel mediation, mediated moderation. So when you go to process macro, we have now I think 82 models they have developed, and they have given different name. So that's not very rocket science. You have to understand the basics behind that, and if required, then only use it. You are not supposed to use it because of just taking it. My objective is to come up with some independent and dependent variable. I will use that only. I will not go for that complex modeling. And I can show you an example that people are saying that if you want to publish, you have to write that moderation. I have published. I know all the moderation mediation technique, and I can use it very well. But I have some of the paper I have written in which I did not use much complex analysis. I got the paper published. So I can show you non-theory and theory-based. I think this is the paper. No, this is theory-based, non-theory. So you can say that this is a category journal, and recently I got get it published. And what is this? Any mediation moderation is here? Nothing. Very simple analysis. But context is very new. There is no any study in the till the time which is impacting the impact of convenience on the mobile banking adoption. That was very new. Paper got accepted. So rather than analysis, and I have published some of the old paper also in which I have used some high means moderated mediation, and that I did it that also. So that depends that what is the intensity. So can you see that I have used this moderated mediation model where we have 4 input variable, 1 mediation, 1 moderation, n output. So it depends on the intensity, because this context there was some study on EBOM and M banking, but they did not check that at this level. So that's why when your study is old, context is old, definitely you have to come up with something new. In that case, you are supposed to use it. If study is new, you can use it and paper will get published. That's very easy. That is all from my side. If you have any question, you can ask. That is all from my side. Now this is a session for the Q&A. If you have any question, you can ask me.
Sir, please refer to the chat section for answers, please.
So I will refer to that. Where I have to. Where is this? I'm not able to find where it's going. Zoom. This. Where is it? I think this is. No. This is Zoom. Where is Meet? I could not able to find Meet here. I think I have to go again with this. Sorry, I have to again. Come.
Hello.
Yes, I am opening it. I'm not finding the Meet here. In
Hello.
my.
Hello.
Yes.
Minawal, may I ask a question, sir?
Please.
सर सर थोड़ा इस पे लाइट दीजिए. रिफ्लेक्टिव और कंस्ट्रक्टिव स्केलिंग में थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन है सर.
There is no any confusion in reflective and constructive. There is only one point. I am joining it again. Please, Tahir, allow me to join. Please, Professor Tahir, allow me join again, because I think I've lost. Now it's visible.
Your voice is echoing, sir.
I don't know why. I am leave the call and I am adding again.
So if you will leave the call, basically the questions will disappear from the chat section.
Okay, that will disappear.
Yes, sir, because if you will rejoin, whatever is being asked in the chat section, that will disappear.
So someone can read for me then.
Yes, sir, I'll write. I will read it.
Yeah, please read it.
Sir, the first question is from Hamia Khan.
Yes.
It is, what is the basic of selection of type of reliability test for a study?
Yeah, Dr. Gohar, your voice is also echoing.
So now my voice is visible now. It's audible now.
Yeah, it's okay, sir. It's
So
okay.
now I will read the question. Sorry for that. I missed. So what is the basis of selection of type of reliability test of that? There is no any basis. So most of the time you can go for the what you can say Cronenberg alpha. That is the best method. But definitely when you have very less sample size, you can go for example, you are doing some qualitative analysis. In that case, you should go for intercoder reliability. For if you want to check the external reliability, you should go for t-test retest. If you are checking the consistency, you can go for Cronenberg alpha and a split half method. So there is no any specific situation, but yes, external qualitative, you should use what you can say intercoder. In quantitative, use Cronenberg alpha. For external reliability, you can check this test retest. So that is the one thing. Let's try to ask question in a very precise manner. Yes. What is the minimum expectable level for FL is 0.7, but don't go by 0.7. I have already told you. First check the AB and CR, and then only you can decide that you have to remove that particular variable or not. But we usually get model fit indices with measurement model as well as path analysis. We don't delete items in measurement model if might affect model fit in both the cases. We usually get model fit indices with measurement model as well as path analysis. If we don't delete items in measurement model, it must definitely we will delete the measurement model, but on the basis of AB and CR rather than on the basis of factor loading. Definitely, if some measurement model I am not getting AB is greater than 0.5, then what I will do? I will delete some of the items, and most of the time I will suggest you whenever you are writing any paper, don't write in the paper. Don't write model fit of that measurement model. Write the paper, the model fit of the path analysis only. That is my suggestion. Now people are using me. So shall we always wait until path analysis? No, no, no. Why you will wait for path analysis? Before path analysis also you can delete something, na? If AB is coming 0.3, what you will do? You will go back and check all the factor which is having less. If your reliability is not coming 0.7, what you will do? You will go back and check that which is having less reliability. You have to item. So we will delete at the item at the face validity. We will delete item at Cronbach real alpha. We will delete item not at factor loading, but at AB and CR. We will delete atom at the different level. It has been adapting the skill for the skill has been used in the context that I have already checked that you are not supposed to use GFA. There is one independent variable and one moderating variable having 4 substantial variables and one dependent. Sir, suppose there is one independent variable, one moderating variable having 4 sub variable, then definitely you should go for SCM because you had having sub variables. If you have only one moderator without mediation, then you can go for regression, because what you have to do, you have to just multiply the value of moderator to input variable and you will get the interaction effect. So no need to run the SCM, but definitely when you have sub variable, you should go for SCM because that is coming under second order. And also if scale is adopted, say for example the design taking and response from Australian background, and now I want to apply it in the no. Pilot testing you can do. You can do some pilot testing. That is no harm in checking the pilot test, because some of the time during the pilot test you will get some of the result which is not very good. So you can think of using some other scale, but my suggestion, don't go for EFA. Definitely you can go for pilot testing.
Is pilot testing necessary to do, or we can
No,
skip
it's not necessary. It's not necessary because I will check now. We will run the CFA and we will check that is reliable and valid or not. So pilot test is not necessary. Why we are doing pilot test now? Because once you will collect the data, it's very costly process. It's time taking process. If something wrong will happen, how you will do? You can't go back and collect the data again because it will take time and money. So that's why, to save that, people are doing pilot test to see that I will get in this pattern. So hopefully when we will collect the 200 or 500 data, we will get. That's why people are doing pilot test rather than anything. So that is the objective of pilot test.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I think this is the whole question I had, and this is although 6 o'clock, and you people have, I think today you had 2 sessions. Thank you very much. This was my last session. Be in touch. If you have any question in between, you can ask me. I have already shared my mail ID with you. And be in touch. We will work for the betterment of the research. So I am not knowing everything. I have some incompleteness inside me. Definitely you have something good that I can learn, and together our objective is to the work for the betterment of the society, to the betterment of the research fraternity as a whole. That is our objective. Thank you very much.
It was wonderful to attend your session, sir. It was really a very resourceful session. Thanks a lot for sharing your valuable thoughts with us.
Thank you
so much.
very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the inspiring talk and wonderful session, sir. It was given in a very visually appealing form. It was very well designed, practical, and valuable for anyone who wants to enhance their understanding about research. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Good night, and be safe in this corona situation. I am logging out. Thank you very much.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
So tomorrow will be the last day of this, workshop for this very short-term course. Hopefully, our first session will start at 11 o'clock. Join us there via same link. Thank you so much.